Dobrý den. Vážený pane prezidente, vážený pane premiére, vážení ministři, velvyslanci a velvyslankyně, vážení hosté, dámy a pánové. Dovolte, abych vás přivítal na oslavě 235. výročí nezávislosti Spojených států amerických. Jsme opravdu poctěni vaší dnešní účastí. I would like to welcome all of you to our celebration of the 235th anniversary of the independence of the United States. You have honored us with your presence today. Our Independence Day provides an occasion to reflect on the United States' history and values. As we are here in the Czech Republic, it is also appropriate to celebrate the shared history of our two nations and the values that continue to bind us together. Our common story began with the influence of Jan Hus on the Protestant founding fathers of the United States in the 18th century. It continued with the extensive immigration from Bohemia and Moravia to the United States in the 19th century. It was the hard work and entrepreneurial spirit of Czech immigrants that helped build many of our great U.S. cities, such as Chicago, Cleveland, and New York. By 1920, there were hundreds of thousands of Czechs living in the United States. Thomas Garrigue Masaryk found a friendly reception from his countrymen when he came to the U.S. as a visiting professor and spoke at Czech and Slovak organizations in the U.S. The American people rightly saw the plight of Czechs and Slovaks, their yearning for freedom, as similar to that of their forefathers in colonial America, repaying the teachings of Jan Hus that were so influential on our founding fathers and mothers' ideology. It is no accident that the Pittsburgh Declaration, the document declaring the intent of representatives of the Czech and Slovak peoples to establish an independent state called Czechoslovakia, was signed in the United States. The large number of politically active Czechs and Slovaks in America was one important factor, but just as important was the natural identification of ordinary Americans with an oppressed people longing for freedom. Tomáš Masaryk befriended President Wilson, and point number 10 of Wilson's famous 14-point speech in 1918 was that the peoples of Austria-Hungary should be afforded freedom. Masaryk subsequently declared the official establishment of the Czechoslovak Republic through the Washington Declaration on October 18, 1918. He wrote, "We accept the American principles as laid down by President Wilson, the principles of liberated mankind, of the actual equality of nations, and of governments deriving all their just powers from the consent of the governed. These are the principles of Lincoln and of the Declaration of Independence." Despite the dark chapters of 20th century history, in which the sovereignty and the freedom of the Czech nation was temporarily eclipsed by foreign occupation and by tyranny, the solidarity of the Czech and American peoples continued. It never let up, and it remains strong today. The U.S. joined with the Czech people to defeat the Nazis. For 4 long decades of communist rule here, high on a hill, over Malestrana's U.S. embassy, flew the United States flag as a symbol of hope. American ambassadors who have preceded me for many decades welcome to this residence dissidents and those who yearn for freedom here, even if they were sometimes arrested as they left our gates. Together, our two nations ended communist domination and brought in the period of freedom that was, for the Czech Republic, commenced with the Sametova Revoluce. And we have worked together, side by side, as the Czech nation has made that Velvet Revolution a success. That history is one that I know well and personally because, of course, my mother was born in the early years of the Czechoslovak Republic, established by President Masaryk. She survived the Nazi occupation of the land. She returned from Auschwitz to live in Karlovy Vary after the war, before fleeing communism and coming to the United States in 1949. Now, I have the privilege to represent the United States, my family, and the cause of freedom in a prosperous, free Czech Republic as a living example of the ties between our two countries. Today, our two lands are bound together in our joint commitment to freedom, to liberty, and to the fundamental human rights of people throughout the world. Czechs and Americans serve together with our NATO allies, establishing peace and security in Afghanistan, as we have done previously in Kosovo and in Iraq. Recognizing the importance of free markets and the value of innovation, the U.S. is one of the top 5 foreign direct investors in the Czech Republic, and our nations continue to strengthen our economic and commercial ties, creating investment, prosperity, and jobs, good jobs, for people in both countries. The growing number of exchanges and partnerships between Czech and American scientists, students, and civil society organizations attest to the importance of our relations and the depth of our shared values. So as we celebrate American independence today, here in the heart of the Czech nation, let us reaffirm our support for the Czech-American partnership and our shared commitment to freedom and dignity for people around the world. Thank you very much. Děkuji vám moc krát.